Hello friends, how are you today? Well, it's been a couple days, or a few days, since I've recorded a video, and there has been a story unfolding, and today seems like the high point of the story, so it's a perfect time to get started. Again, I was exhausted for 3 or 4 days and needed a rest, so I want to thank some of you have sent me inquiries for sessions, and some of you have sent donations, and I really appreciate that, and I also appreciate the inquiries. So thank you very much for engaging that way, and for your comments in the channel. Just a reminder, if you could like and subscribe to the video, that would be super, and it does let the AI know that like to distribute my video further, and it also apparently increases my monetization, and it does seem like those things are the case. So thank you guys so much for helping me with that. I really appreciate it, and it just takes like a click, but it really does make a difference for me, so thanks so much. Okay, now let's get into the story. So what I'd like to do is just do a quick review of today's chart, which is Tuesday, and then I want to talk about the energies, because it's really interesting. So basically, the big thing that's going on here, I think, is that we had the new moon on March 13th. So this is the third day from the new moon. My dog wants some attention here. So it's the third day. So within 3 days, or before or after a new moon or full moon, you've still got the energies going on really strong. But the other thing about a new moon, and I put this out on my on the charts that I put up on Twitter, in the new moon energies, you want to set your intentions for what you wish to create for the month. It's really a time of new beginnings, and I know for me personally, I have really felt that and experienced that in some really great ways. But now the current time is especially important, and let me explain why. Because this is the last new moon of the natural year. And the natural year begins on April 11th, which is around the time of Easter, with the new moon on that day. And that's going to start a new cyclical, natural new year. And so this month is super powerful, because not only are we winding up the previous year, but we're basically starting to move the energies for what's going to happen next year, and that creation has already begun. I know for me that's really the case, and I'm dreaming of so many things, that I want to do next year, but also taking specific in the real world steps, and in a lot of ways. And that's both for energy that I want to put out and energy that I want to receive. And since I know a lot of people who watch my channel also have a bent of, looking at energy, looking at even like spiritual information. But what I wanted to say was that it's not just about what we want to create and what we want to do, but what we want to receive, and allowing ourselves to open up to receiving in the physical, just because we deserve that, just for just being alive, and because we are the spark of design, the divine lives within us. We are worthy from birth. So in general, right, we're worthy of receiving from the divine, and allowing that to manifest in the physical world for us. So let's talk a little bit about how this is expressing on the chart, because it's been really interesting. So what's been going on is there have been these flags, okay, in the chart. So here's the flag from today, and the pole is a little less visible, but you still do have an energy here. And this flag is pretty together. And maybe it's just me, but I kind of see this as the flag of my country, the United States. But it could also be a flag of a nation in general, or the concept of the nation state, nations around the world, the flag of various nations around the world, because the Schumann resonance is a global effect. The United States affects the rest of the world too, so that's part of the story here. Now, this was really interesting because there was this sort of staircase pattern here. But what I want to show you about this, and I may do a separate video just on this because it's really important. But let me flip this chart upside down so that I can show you something. Okay, so the chart actually goes from 0 and then to 40. Usually 40 is at the bottom. So I wanted to do it from 0 to 40 so that you can see that on the chart, the energy is actually going from the, and let's see here, this is the current day. So the energy is going forward up into the hertz from the mid-range of the chart. Do you see that? So it's stair-stepping up into the hertz. And the interesting thing is that I cannot find in the frequencies, qualities, and amplitude, a reason why the green would have made this pattern. Now, normally when the green makes patterns that are interesting, the quality spikes, but there wasn't a quality spike or really anything else that was interesting. And that's why part of me feels that this was oopsie, now I have to just totally undo that. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Part of me feels that this may have been what I call a created effect, i.e. not really natural. So this is one part of the story. We'll get to that in a second. But I want to go back and look at prior, where this started, okay? And here's where it started. Okay, so basically, we had the pause. We had a long story that was going on, and then we had a pause in the technological effect, and that started a new trend of energy. We had this, here I called this the Earth Shaman, this red wave of energy. And then we had this very obvious flag appear, okay? And it seemed to be separated from the pole. So this is the first video I've done talking about the flag aspect. But it's so fascinating because as I was preparing to do this video, I noticed I had called this the first flag. But I noticed that there was sort of this idea of the flag. I talked about this being like an owl hidden behind the scenes, but I also see a flag here, like just the idea of one. And so you have the owl energies and the Earth Shaman, and they're focused on this flag concept. And look, we all live in nation states in the globe, right? We all live in countries that have flags, and that are, each country is sovereign, and each flag represents a sovereign country. And what is important about that country? The people that live in that country. So all of that represents the people who live there, and their various, nationalities, races, cultures, all of that. We're all human, but we've all developed in slightly different ways, right? We have slightly different aspects to our various societies, but we're all one human race. So here's the earth energies, okay? And they were meditating on the idea, it looks like, of a flag, and then a flag appeared in the chart. And what was interesting about this first flag is that, and see, I said this up here, it's separated from the pole. There's some kind of separation, and is that some kind of a rejection of energies or actions? Is it a forced separation? Because it looks like there's a man peering through, or several people peering through at this break. Like, was it broken on purpose? And any kind of a break like this would be either the result of chaos or caused by chaos. So chaos appears to be the dominant energy around this national flag, okay? And living in the United States, where we're having a lot of chaos, of course, there was also a lot of chaos in other countries in the world, particularly the Western countries. Not surprising, I guess, that this would show up, right? Okay, now let's look at what happened after that. Okay, we had after that flag, there was a bunch of wild, beautiful magenta colors, which to me add a divine element. There's a divine element at play. And then here, there was another hint of a flag, okay, but not easy to see. And what was interesting, there was this square shape. I don't know what that meant, but it was, I actually measured it, but it was like a perfect square. And this energy here looked like a pill, and when I play with the light various ways in the image, it actually looks like a heart up here. So it seemed like a pill, and a pill of, everybody talks about red pills and that sort of thing, but this seemed to be information but loving, like the but loving, so with intentions that were in alignment with the highest good here. And actually I wanted it later on. I noticed there was also like this little frog here along with the owl and the earth shaman, and I thought that was interesting because that little green frog has been kind of active in the political scenes. So I thought that was interesting to see the frog as well, the natural energy of that show up. Okay, so then the next version of the flag came here. Okay, so this was the fourth version. Okay, not included it's almost like the natural energies conjured this up, okay? And then it got focused on before the new moon. And I called this flag, like it's almost, here's the pole, and it's almost backwards here, right? It's almost like it's detached from the pole still, but it's almost backwards. Especially if it was an American flag, this looks like the area where the stars would be. Or not. Maybe it's just the stars are high. The shapes, these stripes are highlighted, and stars are here, halfway in the back, faded in the background. But this energy had a real sense of hope, and the reason why was the white resonance super peaked in quality. And what that means is that I felt like it was the divine supporting us in this process of the chaos around the flag, for a nation, various nations, for the United States. And you see here, here the flag is in two pieces, right? It's separated, and there's a separation there, and there's even kind of movement going forward here. Maybe it's in the breeze or whatever. And then we get to this flag, which the pole seems to be here, and then the flag is here, and there's just all this disarray. Okay, all this disarray, energies at cross purposes. This is all vertical, this is all horizontal. And there was this very strange kind of screw or drilling type energy to the left of the flagpole. It kind of was twice here, and there's all these people kind of behind this smaller version of the drill, and then it's bigger. And it looked to me here like, this was on March 12th, this looked to me here like purposeful chaos, like intentionally creating chaos in a nation state. To cause separation, to cause discord. In other words, here, half the flag is vertical lines, half the flag is, dramatic vertical lines, half the flag is horizontal lines, and they're going at each other. So an attempted drilling into a national sovereignty, into a national cohesiveness in a way that where decohesion is caused, okay, like devolution. And there's a really clear split here, right, between the flag, the pole, and then the separation energy over there. And fascinatingly, at that time, there was a break in the technological effect, which has been ongoing for days now. Now, it's interesting, I'm just going to say this without going into it too much, but it's my view that when we're in a period like we're in where the technological event is ongoing, that sometimes there's a pause in the technological event effect for several hours because there's some kind of negotiation ongoing. And I noticed this in the fall when all the stuff was going on in the presidential election, that something interesting would be happening and there would be a pause in the technological effect. Like around when Trump went in the hospital, for example, there was a pause. And then there was a couple key events that happened in the fall around the election. And at each key event, there was a pause. And in the technological effect that was ongoing for weeks at that time. And what I wondered is if the technological effect was some kind of monitoring of frequencies by some kind of advanced technology, and I'm talking about human efforts here, and if one side was negotiating with the other side and allowed a pause so that the other side could do something. This is just what came to me. I didn't talk about it at the time. But there's obviously on the various national stages and on the global stage, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot going on in the background. And let's face it, we just don't know what's going on as regular people. Okay, so I just find that interesting, and I have a machine on in the background, so sorry about any extra noise there. Okay, so now here we are on the 13th. This is the new moon, and we once again have the flagpole, and then the flag is just completely like extended. It's not lit up. It's separated from the pole, from itself. Let's go to that picture here. Here's the new moon, and that occurred kind of right. Look how this new moon is kind of during the new moon, the flag itself is like spread out across a couple days. And it's interesting because there was also this blank space of blue, almost like the blue was holding an aspect of the flag. Like I could almost imagine, like if you reach out your hand with your thumb and then all your fingers together, you make a scoop with a cup with your hand. It was almost like the blue represented for me a divine element, and I'm ignoring the green technological effect here, okay? But a divine element that was kind of scooping a part of the flag in its hands. And the reason that I say that is because the blue, to me, has a spiritual nature, like blue and Archangel Michael kind of go together. So these are the various kind of flag ideas that I've been seeing here. I just put that there for show and tell. So during the new moon, the flag part gets very extended. And prior to the new moon, do you see this here? Do you see these little lines here? That little staircase that happened, it was almost like a trial balloon went up right after the, I said drill down and subversion. Right after the subversion there's an attempt to create the staircase, because the staircase looks artificial to me. Okay. And let's go to today. So here we are. This is part of the scoop that held the flag, okay? And I thought, well, that was the sixth flag. And there's 6 petals on the flower of life, okay? Like the 6-pointed star, the seal of Solomon. And I thought, okay, well, that's the last flag. That must be the last flag in the series. And I thought, well, that must be the whole story over the last few days, right? Oh, I haven't done a video. This is what I've been thinking. And then I saw this staircase, right? Like a DNA. It almost has like a DNA feel to it of like a swirling pattern. But like I said, when I look at the frequencies, amplitudes, and qualities, I just don't see it. The frequencies have been, I'm just talking about today, in the last 3 days, they were pretty flat, basically staying in a narrow range, except for relative to itself, just the white had a bunch of movement, okay? And then it was interesting because the pattern broke here, and I'll show you that in a second, from 8 hours on, and yellow and red moved apart from each other, so the shadow elements distanced from each other, and yellow went to be more in alignment with the white, and the red drew away from that. And we're going to show what happened, what pattern got created. It was very fascinating. The amplitudes have all been, mild. Nothing's really standing out, and some of them are actually pretty low. And the qualities are really all pretty much in our average range. Yellow spiked a little bit actually when it pulled away from red, so it got a little bit stronger. And 18 is high for yellow. For green here, you'll see it also spiked 18 the day before, but 18 for green is like ho-hum. It's more in the usual mid-range for green. So isn't that interesting? The fact that they could both be basically at the same number, but it means different things for that resonance because of where it naturally normally might, where its pattern naturally lies, I guess. All right, so and the one other thing I wanted to show you is right after the new moon, there was all this agitation in the atmosphere geomagnetically. There was hours and hours of geomagnetic disturbances, and then also even geomagnetic storms for several hours, and a spike after the new moon. Oops, that's actually 2 days after the new moon. But anyway, yesterday we had a spike in the solar flares. So let me go back here. So what I'm saying is, looking at the black charts, I could not find a reason why this pattern how it naturally would have gone. So that's why I say it's like an insertion. I'm not quite sure how you would do that, but to me, what it's reflective of is an attempt to hack. And so let me just show you that again, okay? Because I want to flip it and show you flip vertical. Okay, so it looks to me, so time is moving to the right, okay? So this is yesterday, this is today. So it's my view that the forces of darkness that work through human beings, or that however they express on this planet, okay, they cannot access certain levels of brain waves. And I've talked about this before. And so basically, here you're going from the mid beta, and for some reason my dishwasher is on right now, so that was not good planning. But anyway, so you see here the stair stepping up, the attempt to move up into the higher hertz, and it doesn't even get that far. And let me just show you something here. My friend Alex and I were looking at this, and she noticed this, but look, there's even like a stop here. So where the stair step just doesn't work at the top of the stairs case there. So it's hard for the energy to get. It's hard for certain forces, whoever they are, to hack higher brainwave hertz, and this could also be about, because we're talking about attempts to subvert, hack, cause chaos within a nation. And now some of this could be done covertly, like with intention, right, by groups of people or forces or whatever it is. But it could also be, part of the times, right? It could also be just naturally, we're in a shift, right, to the age of Aquarius. All the planets, 6 planets were in Aquarius in February. There's huge astrological shifts going on right now. And the last one remaining is Pluto, and it's going to take a couple of years, I guess, for Pluto to get into Aquarius. But the major outer planets have all now moved into Aquarius in February. So that's going to cause natural chaos as well. So you have natural forces here at work, and you have possibly created effects that are attempting to co-opt or do whatever they want during a time when there's natural chaos. The fact is that we are soul incarnate human beings, okay? We are living souls in a human body. So we're a combination of physical form and the divine, okay? The life force that enliven us is divine, okay? That's my view of this. And so then what happens? What's the next thing that happens? The flag is perfected. It appears again the next day, and it's like perfect. It's all together again. And I just thought that was amazing. I didn't expect to see another flag again. Now, this is basically the 7th flag, right, after the Earth Shaman. But it's also the 8th flag if we include when the natural forces conjured up the flag and were apparently meditating on it way back here. Okay, we got the green frog, which I didn't see before. I saw it in the last couple of days. I didn't put that on my last video. We've got the owl here, and then we've got the Earth Shaman here. Okay, and they conjured up this focus on the flag. So it's not good or bad. It's just, it's not good or bad. It's in alignment with divine will, right? Because we're looking at natural forces here, both shadow forces and forces that are in the world, right? Present in the world. So I wanted to say something about this. I wanted to say something for a minute about the flag. And it's interesting too, but let me just add this before I talk about the flag. The staircase effect, there seems to be a shadow element to it because of the feel I have of it possibly being not totally natural. But it occurred on March 15th, which is the Ides of March, and that relates back to Roman times in the Roman calendar. Debts were to be settled by March 15th. Isn't that interesting? And it's also the day that Caesar was betrayed and assassinated, the Roman emperor. It was a day of celebration during Roman times, but after Caesar was killed, and because of debts being settled, right, you have to have the money to do that. There's also the shadow element to that day. So I think it's interesting that this staircase showed up on that day. It kind of highlights the shadow nature here of if we're looking at a situation where chaos has come to various nations of the globe, then chaos has also come to the people. And what's the most singular way that you could think about a person in the most fundamental way? It's their DNA, right? What they're made up of, the stuff that they're made up of, their DNA. And it's all the people of the world that the flags represent in all their various nations, isn't it? I mean, I wanted to talk about the flag battered and subverted. In the midst of chaos for our nation and all people, my choice is to focus on the commonalities, okay? And I do have a video called The 0-Point Solution for Your Political Aggravation that goes into explaining how putting your energy into one side of an argument, whether it's political, whether it's about anything, actually empowers the other side of the argument. And I explain how that energy works in that video. What is it about human beings that we all, at the most basic level, the most fundamental level, just like how DNA is at our most fundamental level, we want love, we want to have a home, we want the home to be safe, we want a future for our children that is optimistic, that's filled with hope. We want basic, education needed to function in the world. We want sovereignty over our physical bodies. We want to be able to make the choices of how to live our lives. So it seems to me at the most fundamental level, we could say, and, in the United States where I live, the Declaration of Independence preceded our becoming an independent country. At the time of the American Revolution, the first thing that they did was they put together a document, our founding fathers, that spoke to the importance of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all people that lived in the country. So how can we come together in unity? We can focus on our most basic values: honoring life, honoring love, honoring home, honoring children, and honoring God. However each of us choose to express that, right? But honoring those most basic core fundamental values that we have as human beings, that all of us wish for. And there's another choice that comes with that on an individual level, and that is that we have a choice of aligning with the higher expression of our nature or not. And this is easily illustrated in the example that I talked about, the 0-point solution for our political aggravation, where I explain that you can choose to put your stake down on one side of duality, and in putting your stake down, taking a polarized position. And in doing so, we have been unconscious to how that empowers the other side, the opposing side to the very position that we are advocating. The secret to solving this is to create a 0-point energy within myself as a human being. And as I create that for myself, the benefits of that flow to me, and then energy that's in motion is always in motion. It flows out into the world. So by making a choice to align with my higher nature, I'm not talking about the dual way of looking at it, good versus evil. I'm not even talking about that. I'm saying that that's an old paradigm that is based in duality. And that whenever I have something that's either one or another, like flipping a switch, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. Think about it this way in a computer. The zeros can't exist without the ones, okay? You can't have a computer that's all zeros, okay? The programming is just not going to work without its ones, and vice versa. You can't be a computer that's just all ones without your zeros, okay? Life isn't going to function properly. So there could be outside subversion that attempts to make the zeros and the ones hate each other for some reason, or attack each other, or feel certain ways. But when you put your stake down on one side of duality, you empower the other side, because your side cannot exist without the other side existing, because you are two halves of a whole. And so when I talk about we can make choices that align with our higher nature, what I'm saying is that we can make choices that align with that 0-point state. Another way to say it, if that doesn't make sense, is a centered state. And that centering is from within the heart out to the rest of the body, right? So in meditation, a lot of people achieve a centered state where they're able to be calm and connected with their life force, with their higher guidance, however they view that within. Another way to look at this, I would say from a Christian perspective, a prayerful state would be another way to describe 0-point. When you are in a prayerful, one-to-one communion with God, where you are receiving impulses from God, from the divine, okay, that help you direct your life, okay, from that still place within, right, that beautiful still well, or however you see it. And in my view, the 0-point, I'm talking about energy, but 0-point is about connection with the soul, again, with God, all right? The spark of the creator that you are is the soul, okay? So some people call that the God spark, but anyway. So what I'm talking about is that we could choose to align with our higher nature. And when we do that, the flag that has been subverted by chaos comes back together, okay? We recover our sanity. We learn to live together in wholeness, okay? Accepting and loving the good and the bad as two necessary parts of the whole, okay? It might be a stretch for some people to understand that, but until you've been through tough times, had some distance from that, and come to see that some of the hardest times in life have been some of the most beneficial to you. I've gone through that myself. And it's a hard process, but I wouldn't change any of those things, because I've come to a place of centeredness where I can love it all. And if I can love it all within myself, that's when I can start loving and accepting my neighbor as myself, right? That's the golden rule that Jesus Christ talked about, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, most of us focus on loving the neighbor first, right? Because we tend to discount ourselves. That's just how it's been, okay? How a lot of us are raised or whatever it is. But in Jesus's words, love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? So that means that if you've learned to love the wholeness, everything about yourself, the good and the bad, the tragic times and the happy times, love it all, okay? Love yourself into wholeness. That's when you can treat your neighbor with that same type of love, the love of the meek man, okay, or woman. And the meek man or woman, the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek man or woman, okay, during biblical times was not a timid person. They were a pillar in the community. They were a confident man or woman. They were connected, right, with God. They were godly, okay. They had the strength to act in alignment with how God directed them from within. And that's the kind of person that we can become. And when we become that person, we learn to better get along with our neighbor, to better love our neighbor in wholeness, okay? And accept. When we accept what's happened to us, we can accept the differences in others, much more easily. Right? Because we're no longer looking at that difference as a projection of our own pain, right? That came from within ourselves. That blinds us to the fact that the difference that might bother us is not actually about the other person. It's about our own projection. And that projection is part of my life that needs to be healed. Once I heal that, I no longer see it in the other person. Oh my God, it's just... it's incredible, isn't it? It's an incredible story.